Kyle here from allmediareviews.blogspot.com. Work in progress trying to do these videos with the image within the browser, your camera within the browser window. Anyway, I'm going to resume the Rate Your Music list I just put up, favorite modern progressive art rock albums. Just I'll get as much as this. I don't know how many I'm going to get done, but I'll get as many as I can. So, number 197, Annuals Behemoth, their debut album. Great textured sort of pop. They're all like fans of Yes for one thing. They have a song called is it Dry Clothes? I saw them live a bunch of times. Let's see here. Bleary Eyed, Ida Mai, The Atmosphere, Brother. There's a whole bunch of really good tracks on this album. Behemoth from 2006 by Annuals. And still, I consider it my favorite of their three albums. They really only had such fun. The record followed it. Has maybe some songs I like even more, but overall, I like this record more. The third record, Timestamp, I think, I don't even remember too well anyway. But Behemoth from Annuals, number 197. 196, Esperanza Spalding's Emily D Plus Evolution. Came out in 2008. 2016, rather. When 2008. I can't read right now. This was her first, you could say, art rock prog album. I mean, she combines a lot of styles: jazz, soul or R&B, pop, funk at times even. And I know she was on Janelle Monáe's Electric Lady. That's how I kind of I know she won the Best New Artist from the Grammys. But a lot of her albums are more just one style. This album, I found she was being a little more experimental and also emphasizing more. I mean, I don't know if you would call it rock. And I revisited some of this record a few weeks ago. I want to go back to it again because it's been a few years, in 2016. But Judas, Ebony and Ivy, there's a few tracks in here that stand out more than others. But I don't know why track 11 is spelled out like that. Funk the Fear. But yeah, this is a really interesting. I mean, let's see, this one, 12 Little Spells, which also was on my list, I believe, a little bit higher, not to spoil too much. But yeah, I really like this, and it really made me a fan of hers. Although it says Hope Spalding, which is weird. Maybe that's her real name, and she just goes by Esperanza. I don't know. I don't know enough. I wanted to see her. She's from Portland, looks like. Now she lives in New York, but anyway, that's number 196. Number 195. Cloud Cult's Feel Good Ghost, Tea Partying Through Tornadoes. This was, like Esperanza Spalding, this was the first Cloud Cult album that I actually really enjoyed. I'd heard their name. I talked about this in some of my Cloud Cult videos previously, but this kind of, I always thought they were just like a hipster band, and I understood, I came to conclude, no, I mean, yes, they're popular among hipsters, at least locally in Minnesota, but no, this is terrific. They put out some records I enjoy even more, why it's at this number, but Journey of the Featherless, I mean, the vocal harmonies, look at that, that was back in 2008, very solid, 7, yeah, okay, I don't, Everybody Hears a Cloud was kind of a pop tune that got on the radio, at least locally, on the college station, Radio K, but, I still enjoy that. Love You All is very heartfelt and melancholy and sad. I just remember this record and they used all those textures and the gang vocals and the cello and the violin and along with your standard rock sounds, but it's very experimental but the songs don't overstay their welcome. I think the production, this one and the one before it, they really stepped up compared to their earlier records, and so that's what kind of gave them, put them over the hump for me as a band I grew to love. But yeah, Cloud Cult's Feel Good Ghost, Tea Partying Through Tornadoes from 2008, number 195. Number 194, The Reign of Kindo, This Is What Happens. The second Reign of Kindo album came out August 3rd, 2010. This is a little more stripped down than their debut album, but it's still a record I enjoy a lot of. I know a lot of fans, actually, they consider this their favorite. My favorite tracks off of it, Out of Sight Out of Mind, is the one song that sort of it reminds me most of the debut album, that sort of jazzy pop with real busy drums and stuff. But I've grown to like a lot of other tracks on here. Bullets in the Air, Thrill of the Fall, Now we've made Our Ascent, which is a sequel to Not Till We Make Our Ascent, maybe the best track they ever made. But I still like that it reprises the melody from that. Battling the Years, Psalm. It's still a really good record. Unfortunately, it's a case where a band has so many good records, it falls a little bit lower. But grand scheme of things, I think it was in my top 10 or 15 records that year anyway. So this is what happens from the Reign of Kinneh 194. Number 193, the lone full length album from I don't know if they're from Norway or from no, they're actually British. I thought they might have originated from one of the Scandinavian countries, but anyway, Fields, Everything Last Winter came out in 2007. The easiest way to describe this, and I've got physical copies of both this and one of their EPs. It's like Purism Revolution and Mew, but doing more folky, with some more emphasis on folky styles. But Song for the Fields is sort of their trademark track. Feathers is great. They have a male and female vocal dynamic. The energy's really good. The textures. I remember playing this album a lot back in 2007. This is comparisons to like Franz Ferdinand and Block Party. But, they have their prog in them. A little bit like Jethro Tull in a sense, using the folk element with prog. But anyway, unfortunately, this is their only record. They were going to release a second album a few years later. They'd recorded it, mixed, mastered it, and the label just, bought them out and they got basically fired by the label. It was called Hollow Mountain? Not Hollow Mountain. I think it was Hollow Mountain. It was something like that. I'm thinking of this the album from Vuvuzela. I think it was something like Hollow Mountain, but it never happened. And I know there are fans online that have the demos. Some of them were up on MySpace, and they just still long for it to come out. Number 183, Fields, Everything Last Winter from 2007. All right, number 192, The Apples in Stereo. I gotta be more better about this. New Maniac Wonder, the second to last Apples in Stereo album, and to me it was like the best sort of molding of like styles and production quality. The last album with the drummer, I forget her name now because I know she left after this. Hillary Sidney. This is the second album. They're not around anymore, unfortunately. The Apples in Stereo. They were featured or included in the new Elephant Six documentary, which I wanted to see and have yet to see. I was having the vertigo problem when I was going to go see it, but this album. Well, I'll go back to it again. This album. That was not. I want to go to their actual profile. Came out in 2007. It's not a. They don't really have any short records, the Apples in Stereo, but it has a lot of really good psychedelic pop songs. The ELO influence, and at the time I was listening to it, I probably wasn't as versed in ELO as I should be, but there's a lot of ELO on this, like the whole vocoder use and everything like that, but it's really in a good way. Same Old Drag, Can You Feel It? But it has the Beautiful Machine suite. That's sort of where they go really more full on prog. Sunday Sounds. There's a lot of little bits here, like 13-second droplets, and it's a fun record. Robert Schneider's got a pretty easy to digest voice. They're influenced by the Beach Boys and a lot of power pop, but they don't, they still emphasize the psychedelia. So it's neo-psych, you could say it. One of the best neo-psychedelia, I actually should include that among the styles, albums I've heard of the 2000s especially. So, New Magnetic Wonder from the Apples in Stereo, number 192 from 2007. Muse's album, Origin of Symmetry from 2001, the second Muse album, which I think of this almost for the... it's not a cover, but Feeling Good, because I really had not listened to Feeling Good before, and I know, of course, Nina Simone did a cover of that. There's a lot. George Michael did a cover of it. Plenty of people have covered that song, but Muse's version is as good as anything. Newborn. There's a lot of. I'm not that into the first Muse album. It very much sounds like Radiohead, but this doesn't as much. Plug-in Baby is another favorite. Citizen Erased, that's the sort of epic on the record. micro cuts. I haven't done any videos on Muse, but the 2000s Muse, the albums I mentioned, I was talking about in the honorable mentions. They're more of a band that I like certain songs, but I felt like at least the albums in the 2000s I could listen to begin to end, and I would enjoy, just a number of the songs, which made them a little better overall. So, but yeah, Origin of Symmetry. I think at one point I actually considered this my favorite Muse album, but I'd put it maybe number two, number three. But from 2001, number 190, whatever, 191 on this list, this epic list. The second Blackfield album, the release date is weird because I remember it came out in America the same day as Caddisfly, Set Sail the Prairie, and House of Fools Live and Learn, but it actually came out in the UK, I guess, on February 12th because it was in March of 2007. But this album has the song Christenings. I mean, I love the first Blackfield album a ton. I really like this one a lot too. Not quite as much. I felt like they did. Some of the songs are a little more. They're not as melancholy, I guess you could say. The first album is filled with sad song after sad song after sad. This is more of a mix. I can't remember if this is Where Is My Love is another version, because it's a version on the first album. But End of the World, yeah, that's sort of an epidemic. But Christening's, that piano arrangement is great. Once, this is a pretty good record. It's a solid record, I would call it, of sort of, melancholy, psychedelic, pop rock. Yeah, I mean, if you know Stephen Wilson and Aviv Geffen, this project, a lot of people like the first album, like myself. This is a close second. I don't consider it as quite as good as the first album, but it's a close second, relatively. Number 189, Pure Reason Revolution's Eupnia. I've mentioned this a little bit when I talked about their new album in the Albums of the Year video from a few days ago. The title track is awesome. This was a great sort of reunion. They're back, a reunited album. And I actually think I might actually prefer this to a couple of the other records. I don't consider it my favorite. The Dark Third still takes that, which I'll be talking later about in this list, but the title track is really good. It's, surreal. It's got great dynamics. Silent Genesis, A New Obsession. I found that this album, while it's a little heavier at times than maybe anything they'd done, I mean, some of the heaviness was followed on, after the first album on the second and third records before they broke up. Hammer and Anvil, and that was the third record. And Amor, Vincent, Omnia. But I think that, maybe with some time away, I know John Courtney had done that sort of industrial project. This album emphasized a little more of the heaviness, but I think it still worked overall. But yeah, Eupnia from 2020, Pure Reason Revolution's album at number 189. Number 188, Bent Knees Say So. This is the first Bent Knee album I got into. I don't consider it my favorite Bent Knee album, but it's still a good album. I consider Land Animal, they're pretty close, and Shiny Eyed Babies. If I was picking favorites on this, those first two tracks, Black Tar Water and Leak Water, I know they did a couple of those live. Nakami was another one. But, yeah, I mean, I remember I was into this when it came out, and I was, talking that year in 2016. I liked Land Animal. I think at some point I liked it a little more, although maybe it was longer, but... And then I kind of concluded Shiny... I don't know, I'm going to talk about I'll talk about Shiny Eyed Babies later, but... Yeah, good record from Bent Knee. Unfortunately, the records that followed Land Animal, I consider this much better. I'm not as into, unfortunately. But anyway, number 188. Number 187, The Deer Hunter Migrant. Well, this album I've talked about in my review when I talked about The Deer Hunter earlier this year. Whisper and Shame are kind of like my go-tos on this album. And Bring You Down, those first three tracks. But then I also remember revisiting, and Escape would also be part of that. Then it's sort of hit and miss between Shouting at the Rain, Let Go. Yeah, I mean, it's still a good record. I mean, I've mentioned the Migration Annex added onto it makes it even better. The ballads and stuff like that, I'm sort of hit and miss on. It's like right after he did the Color Spectrum. So, but yeah, it's still a pretty good record, and that's why it's still on the top 200 or whatever, which is just crazy. From Migrant from 2013 from the Deer Hunter. All right, so number 186, Sun and Moon from Timbre. This was an epic record that came out in 2015. I remember a lot of people getting into it. It's sort of I mean, she plays the harp really well. She's played on a lot of other albums, like with the Polyphonic Spree and or Sufjan Stevens and some others. What's the other band? The band's would be on my main on the list of bands maybe. Anyway, she's a hired gun, but then she's written her own music. And Little Flowers, the record before this, was on the honorable mentions. This album, while it has the sort of choral music in the second half, the second CD, that is just kind of a mood kind of thing for me. The first half is really good. She goes all proggy on Night Girl, Nicturus Sees the Sun. Song of the Sun is kind of poppy. It's very uplifting. All these tracks on the first half are not worth skipping. That I always want to listen to the whole thing. Chicago Pier. And she was being very ambitious because it's a big concept double album, Sun and Moon, about the environment and about sort of energy and the earth and that kind of thing. But yeah, the choral music is sort of, I don't know, I can take it in small doses. I know, again, there are people that absolutely praise this to no end. There are other people that I think it's dropped off because it was like top 5 on Rate Your Music, top 10 that year. It's gone all the way down to 344. It's pretty sad to see, but I still think it's a very ambitious record, and I appreciate the ambition as much as listening to it itself. So, Timbre's Sun and Moon from 2015, number 186. Number 185, Muna from Marketa Irglova. I think I pretty much consider this the best Marketa Irglova album. Her blend of sort of orchestral chamber pop folk. Of course, she's one half of the Swell season with Glenn Hansard. I think she's actually stretched her wings and done really well for herself on her own, writing her own music. This came out in 2014, yeah, and it's a really pleasing album. I don't have super go-to tracks. I haven't listened to it in a number of years also, so I'm guilty of that. But when Marketa Irglova is good, I'm just totally mesmerized. A little bit like Warpaint. Certain female artists especially I enjoy. But yeah, Muna from 2014 from Marketa Irglova, number 185. Number 184, the debut album from Amanda Palmer after they kind of split or went on hiatus with the Dresden Dolls. They recently did a reunion, actually. But this has a lot of really good orchestral pop rock songs. Astronaut, very earwormy. Run in the Family, Ampersand, Leeds United. This came out on vinyl. I need to get it on vinyl. I have the record that followed on vinyl. Of course, it had St. Vincent. What's the use of wondering? Yeah, that's right. Guitar Hero. When the game, I don't know if I always think of Guitar Hero the game for that. Ben Folds is on that. Oasis. I think she even went one better with the record that followed this, but I can't deny there's just many sort of addictive earworm tracks on this album, and that's why I just love it. I love the use of strings and the piano, of course, with Amanda and her vocal lines. So that's number 184. Number 183, new XCL from Mask of the Phantasm. I just discovered less than a year ago. This band, as I described them, it's like hearing the early Mars Volta music with Courtney Swain from Bentley as the singer. And it does include the services of Thomas Pridgeon, formerly of the Mars Volta, and what's the gentleman name? His name is Adrian Terrazas Gonzalez. He was also part of the Mars Volta at one point, so they're related. It's a great energetic record. The saxophone arrangements are among my favorite parts of this. Although I listened to it for maybe 6 or 7 times for about a 2-week period. I haven't gone back to it. I need to, just to think of favorites. I mean, I go to Spotify and tell you, but Final Night at the Duplex I remember really liking. Dreams Dying on a Dance Floor. I mean, there's a lot of elements to it, but the saxophone parts, the saxophone just totally stick out. Just they totally work on this. If you've never listened to this and you're a fan of the Mars Volta, and you compare it to the Mars Volta album that came out this year, this is more my bag. So the new Axial Age from 2021 from the Mask of the Phantasm. I gotta go back here. All right, so here we go. Let's see here. I got about 10 more minutes, and I gotta scoot. But I'll try to get through this. So this will be definitely in short video segments, I think, at this point. Who knows? We'll see. So Cloud Cult's Love, I have it number 182. I've actually enjoyed this album more since it came out from the year it came out in 2013. It's got the track that reminds me that Pain of Salvation wrote a song that was a lot like that. Sleepwalker. Very epic, the dynamics and the gang vocals. Cloud Cult, when they do gang vocals well, I'm a total sucker for it. One by One is great, very catchy and earwormy. Good Friend was a single that got on the radio here in at least the Twin Cities. The Calling, Complicated Creations, a live staple. There's a lot of really good tracks on this album, Love. And I think I need to go back to it more. I mean, I've probably been cherry picking the songs I've listened to over the last few years, but as a whole, it's a pretty damn good record. There's other records I like more from them, but it falls at one. It comes at 182 and makes the list because it is such a good record still, and it has a number of highlight tracks. Giant Sky, the other kind of maybe go-to discovery for new albums this year that it came out in 2021 thanks to a lot of people on YouTube and stuff. I think it was Notes Reviews who mentioned it. The related project to the band Soup, the post-rock band. Giant Sky is like a psychedelic post-rock band too. It's trippy. It's like less is more. I can't remember. I just talked about it in like a video blog. I never actually did a video featuring it. And I want to get the vinyl still if I can afford it. It's not cheap to ship it from Europe because they're from Europe. I think from the UK. The biggest thing is, and I think they're from Norway, not the UK. My bad, because Soup is too. But yeah, it's for being a side project. It's like a little gem, as I think Notes Reviews described it as. It has like this reoccurring track. Like the further we go into deeper, the further we go, the deeper it gets. Parts 1 through 6, and then the same thing, part 7. But yeah, I think that female and male vocals. I remember hearing lots of other bands I like within their sound, and just the atmosphere and the flow. It's almost goosebump worthy. I really love this album from Giant Sky, the debut. So they're probably working on new albums and maybe coming out in 2023. Number 1, that was when we were at 181. Number 180, Adebisi Shank. This is the album of a band called Adebisi Shank, where they put out at least 2 other albums, I think, basically with the same name, just change it to the second and third album. This is like maybe my favorite math rock album ever. I mean, there's some other bands like Foals and Battles that will show up on this list, but this is like pure energy music, and it's quirky. It just works so much less is more. I'm not gonna, it's like, look at the track list. It just, you listen to it and it's over before it starts. Like, you think it's got to have more, and then you just like play it all over again. It's definitely an album that's worth repeating. But yeah, if you like math rock, you like high energy, like workout music, this album is terrific. And the Ammunition Jip is off the charts. It's very high energy. All right, so number 179, Ben Sinister's album from 2014, which was my album of the year for many months that year. I don't think it didn't finish the album of the year, unfortunately, but it has one of their longest songs on it called the Best of You, the opening track. A lot of sort of, I don't call it harder rock, but rock in tunes. So it's not quite as catchy as some of their other albums, although it has Fancy Pants. But Thunder and Lightning, Teacher, and 17, those 3. Through the Week is and It Will Never End. That's almost like a suite itself. Yeah, but I mean, I love Ben Sinister. I'm a fanboy, so like the Deer Hunter, their albums are easily going to find their way on this list. But yeah, it's a terrific, another one of their records. I mean, you could put it on, and if you're a Ben Sinister fan, I don't know why you wouldn't enjoy it. I think it's a little more hard rock than some of their other records. It's not as proggy, but it's proggy enough still. Anyway, Best of You is probably the proggiest track. Anyway. Number 179, Ben Sinister's Animals from 2014. Now the album that just came out this past year, Midlake for the Sake of Bethel Woods. I talked about that. This is very well composed, retro sounding, use of piano, folky, a psychedelic folk rock with prog tendencies. I mean, the musicianship, the drummings. is just is excellent. I was watching Scott from the Prog Corner talk about this in his non-prog albums, which I don't know if you call it prog or not, but he was talking about how it was, he read that it was based on, I didn't even realize, based on maybe something to do with Woodstock, because it's in Bethlehem, New York, or whatever, Woodstock, New York, near Bethel. I don't know. It's maybe they were there. Maybe they did recording there. They recorded it there and just called it this. I don't know what the origin. It's Eric Polito though, who wasn't the lead singer originally with Midlake, but yeah, I mean, the Bethel Woods, the song is one of my favorites. Noble. I mean, there's a lot of these songs. I just remember really enjoying this and just being almost in awe of, because I've always liked Midlake, but I just kind of, they got lost in the shuffle, and I thought they'd broken up. But this kind of came out of nowhere, and I really enjoy when a band comes out with a new album, and I love it, and I just kind of forgot about them, or you're just not expecting something to be great, and it is. So for the sake of Bethelwood, my favorite Midlake album probably at this point, and it comes in at number 178. So I'm going to stop for now, unfortunately, because I'm still a little bit in a time crunch. But yeah, I'll have to try to resume more of this. I guess this could be literally 10 videos that are this long, of 15 to 20 minutes, just because these albums are all worth including and talking about. Again, I'm going to intend to listen and do more features on, especially when we get into the top 50, even the top 100, because we're going to get into the cream of the crop. But the albums that are outside that area are all albums I love too, and I figured they're worth keeping. So please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Thank you for watching. Give me your take on any of these records. What albums you think these should be higher? Do you think they should be on the list? I'd love to hear about that. But again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.